Hello everybody, how are you? I hope you've had a good week. Some of you might have been back at nursery or maybe at school. Maybe you've been spending the week with your friends and your teachers. The toys have been playing today and look, Green Bear has been pretending to be a king. Doesn't he look smart with his crown on? I'm going to tell you a story about a king. That's why he's dressed up today. Today we're going to be talking about a story that Jesus told the disciples to help explain to them about things called sin and forgiveness. Sins are things that we think or do that don't show love to ourselves or to our friends or family or to God. And forgiveness, God forgives our sins. This means that he excuses them. It's a bit like God saying, you did something that you shouldn't have done. Okay, please don't do it again. When we sin, it makes God sad. But God never stops loving us, even when we sin. One day, Jesus was walking with his disciples and he was teaching them as he went. And one of his disciples, called Peter, said to him, how many times should I forgive someone who sins against me? 7 times? Is that enough? Jesus said, no. 70 times 7. That sounds like loads. But it doesn't mean a number. It just means you never stop forgiving them. You forgive them forever. And he told them a parable. Jesus said, the kingdom of heaven is a bit like this. Imagine a king. He let lots of his helpers borrow some of his money. And it was time for the helpers to give the money back. To repay the king, one of the helpers owed him a huge amount of money, maybe 1 million gold coins, loads. The helper couldn't pay, so the king said that he would have to be sold along with his wife and his children and all the things that he owned to pay back the debt. But the man begged the king. He pleaded with him. He said, please be patient with me. I will pay it back. Well, the king was kind and full of pity for the man. So he let him go and he told the man he didn't have to pay back the money. What a generous and kind thing for the king to do. Well, the man was so happy and grateful when he left the king. He had been forgiven this huge amount of money and he was so pleased. But do you know what he did? He went to see his friend. He had lent his friend some money, maybe 100 gold coins. When he saw his friend, he grabbed the man and he said to him, you must pay me back immediately, right now. Well, the man begged. He said, give me more time. I don't have the money. Please, will you give me more time to pay you back? I will do it. But the first man said, no. And he had him thrown into jail until he could pay back the debt. Some of the king's other helpers saw what had happened and they were very upset. So they went to the king and they told him everything. Well, the king called for the man who had been forgiven. He brought him into the palace and he said, you evil person, I forgave you that huge debt because you pleaded with me. You asked me to help you and I did. I was kind and forgave you. Shouldn't you be just as kind towards your friend? The king was angry and sent the man to prison until the whole debt was paid off. Jesus said to his disciples, "You must forgive your brothers and sisters from your heart." And I hope that's something that we can do every day. It can be tricky sometimes, but it's really, really important to forgive people. Our next story today is called "It Wasn't Me," and it's about putting the blame on somebody else. Oscar and Ella were mischievous twins who never took the blame. "It wasn't us, it was Patch," the twins would always claim. But Ella and Oscar's mum and dad weren't silly, and they knew that Patch the dog was not to blame. It really wasn't true. When Mum invited her snooty friends around to tea, splat went Oscar's ball into the pink jelly. Oscar said, "It wasn't me, it was Patch who kicked the ball." "I don't think so," cried Mum as she marched Oscar down the hall. Dad was busy painting when Ella whizzed past him. Whoosh! She made the ladder wobble and Dad fell in a bush. Ella said, "It wasn't me. Patch really wanted us to race." But she quickly disappeared when she saw Dad's grumpy face. When Mum baked a chocolate cake, Oscar thought it looked yummy. He only meant to sneak one piece, but it tasted far too scrummy. Oh my goodness. "You greedy boy," cried Mum. "You're sure to get a tummy ache." Oscar said, "Oh, it wasn't me. It was Patch who stole the cake." Ella just loved to run and twirl. She'd race around and leap. But when she slipped on wet grass, she landed in a heap. Ella said, "It wasn't me. Silly Patch chased next door's cat." "Oh no," said Dad and shook his head. "I'm not falling for that." One day, Oscar and Ella were having fun at the beach, but as they dug the castle moat, they heard a sudden screech. The sand was in Mum's hair and on Dad's ice cream cone. Oscar said, "It wasn't us. Patch was burying his bone." Back at home, Mum sighed. "I think there's only one thing we can do." "All right," said Dad, looking grim. "Come over here, you two. Mum and I have had a chat. We both agree, and so if all these things are Patch's fault, then he'll just have to go." Ella wailed, "You can't get rid of him. He's such a lovely pet." "We both love Patch," cried Oscar, feeling guilty and upset. They told the truth and asked their mum and dad if Patch could stay. "On one condition," said Dad. "No more telling lies, okay?" The next day, Patch was playing, but he slid on the rug and crash! he slammed into a table and Mum's vase fell with a smash. Oscar gasped and said Pat really did do that, but Mum must never know. Ella said, "You're right, or she might say that Pat will have to go." So Oscar and Ella took the blame as Mum cleared the mess away. They both had to help around the house doing boring jobs all day. Ella looked over at Oscar as they dusted the bookcase. Had they really seen a cheeky grin on little Patch's face? I think that dog is very clever. He'd taken the blame for far too long, hadn't he? That's a good story. Well, that's the end of our stories, and I hope that we will see you soon. Bye-bye.